It's Catherine's point
about
do we test newborns for the benefit of the parents? And I'd say that's a bad way of identifying parents at risk of FH or any other condition, because lots of 30-year-olds don't have children, and lots who do have children don't hand on the relevant gene to the child that then gets tested. So if you actually want to identify 30-year-olds with FH or anything else, you should look at them and not use it, and not, instead of doing that, tack something extra on to what is happening for the benefit of the newborns. I think you want to be clear about what one's doing in each step.
But I just want to come to Will's point about, the paediatrician's priorities.
Well, there are
are not genomics, but loads of other treatments and interventions.
No, absolutely.
But is that because they just don't know enough about genomics and its potential?
No, because if you think, if you think of all the children with, neurodevelopmental problems, a lot of what we should be doing for them is providing good physiotherapy, paediatric neurology overseeing what anticonvulsant drugs they're taking. There's a case for genomics perhaps in the future being able to guide therapy and say, okay, this child has got this gene variant, they're more likely to respond or not to respond to some anticonvulsant. But people have been trying to do that for a long time and it's not got anywhere yet. So one day it might. So there's a good reason for research into it. But in terms of what is needed day to day in the clinics, it's physiotherapy and it's community paediatrics.
And it's not necessarily genomics.
And it's not genomics.
Okay. Come and join in this conversation. Yes, that's you. 2 minutes. Where are we going to go with the conversation, though? We're talking about...
In a minute, I'm going to have to go quite soon.
Okay, so before you go, give it...
Offended.
I won't be offended, but I will want a final thought from you, although I won't be offended if you don't give one. But I will certainly request a final thought from you. So where do we want to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about, the needs of paediatricians? Do we want to talk about the needs of the NHS as a whole? Do we want to talk about something else? Catherine, would you like to take?
Well, I'm really glad Will made that point actually, because there is so much hype around this area. Every time there's a new government strategy, there's stories in the media about obviously a child's life's been saved, or all that. So I think that's something we need to adjust, as being a little bit realistic about the place of genomics in the future of our health, and in the context of the many other things that we could be doing to improve child health, for example.
Okay, are we overhyping genomics here a little bit? Are we overhyping genomics?
I was just going to say, what I think could potentially be more controversial is if we started offering genetic screening to pregnant to-be mothers, for example, testing for fetus and embryos, because of all the can of worms that could subsequently open up. For instance, I've just found out my child has Down syndrome, as an example, and say, I want to choose an abortion, that sort of thing. And I'm not decrying abortion, I'm not making any opinion about abortion whatsoever.
Right, it's a thing that's out there.
Exactly what I am saying is, if we were offering genetic testing to pregnant would-be mothers, would the can of worms that could subsequently open up be worse than what we're currently thinking about with the newborns? Because, once your newborn's born, your newborn has this disease. Great, not great, what do we do now? If you have a pregnant woman that goes, right, my fetus has this, I think there are much more options available to the would-be mother, but some of those options are much more controversial and perhaps ethically wrong than what we are currently discussing.
Okay, well, I think you've answered your own question about the can of worms. Okay, we've got a new face to the table. What's your name?
Gulcin, Gulcin.
Sorry?
Gulcin.
Gulcin?
Yes.
Gulcin.
Thank you for the first time. Cannot pronounce
Problem yok.
Oh my God.
Ben de teşekkürler. Anyway, we're talking about, we were talking about newborn genetic screening. Jessica wants to drag it through to kind of like screening of embryos, potentially fetuses. Is it going to open a whole can of worms? Probably. What do people think about that? Is it something that happens anyway?
Yeah, I mean, when you get into genomics and the newborn, I mean, if you're looking at sick children, then obviously you've got a good chance, well, a fair chance of getting a diagnosis. If you're looking at healthy children, it's very different because there are lots of conditions with incomplete penetrance. So you're going to be saying, well, you might develop this in the future. And if you go into polygenics, then you're in this sort of crazy world of relative risks of sort of 1.1 or 0.9 or this sort of rubbish information which is of no use to anyone. So I think you've got to be very careful about what information you generate about the newborn.
Yeah, I mean, go on.
I would argue you get that with any polygenic disease whatsoever, and that also makes me think it is so easy to not, I don't want to say manipulate, but when you have anxious pregnant-to-be women and they're suddenly told, oh, your child has 10 variants for breast cancer, is it actually explained to them what that really means in the whole wide context of genomics? Okay. And I do think it's so easy that because there isn't I would say there's a lack of education on what genomics education actually means to the general public. I think there is a lack of understanding, definitely.
I mean, that's not a whole question by itself. Is if we're going to introduce this regime of testing, does it need to come with a bit of education, with some, with a bit of understanding of what it's all about? Because I struggle, and I've been doing this gig for 5 years, but do we need to actually have a bit of that? Is that going to make it have more sense of people? Yes, Henning?
I think absolutely. You can't give complex results to the general public without proper explanation. And I think with anything like this, part of the budget should be the half hour or so of a trained counselor to discuss the results. Because otherwise, if it's just a report or so, then it can probably, at least in the perception, do much more bad than good.
Okay, I mean, is half an hour enough, do you think?
Well, compared to what I get from my GP, that would already be a lot.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to be realistic
That's
here.
That's a lot of attention, isn't it, really, half an hour,
We're going to need half an hour before the test as well.
Yes.
To decide whether you want to have it and what the implications of having it are. So, I mean, I think all this has got to be weighed up into the kind of, cost-benefit analysis. If you this is an important part of the testing process.
Yeah.
And the follow-up and everything. It's not just about the cost of the test, which you see a lot on some, on slides. So it costs this much now. It's really cheap to do the test. It's cheap to do the testing and the sequencing, but it's not cheap to offer the service.
Yeah. I mean, how much time and attention do people need to be able to understand these results, which are complex and to a certain extent a little bit unknown as well? I mean, you actually do this. I'm going to come to you, but I just want to ask you, Angus, how much time do people need to sort of understand these things? When you're out there in the...
But, I mean, it's so individual, isn't it? And it depends whether you're dealing with parents worried about a sick child, or whether you've got a perfectly healthy and apparently perfectly healthy child, and you're just going to be medicalising them. And just giving information that's contextless.
Yeah, I mean, do you think half an hour is a good amount of time?
I mean, that's unanswerable, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. All right, well, at least I asked you. What's that?
I think it depends where you live, in which country, how many patients, how many minutes you have for just one patient. So if you're in the United States, you have 45 minutes. Right. If you're in Turkey, you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
It might depend.
Yeah.
But of course, you should explain, for example, we have a center for autism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important, critical for people who have or not, because you cannot differentiate, you cannot understand if your child has autism or not. So it's not easy. You should be able to explain the parents the maximum information you can give to them, because it will all help during their lives, all their lives, I think.
Okay, so more time is definitely better, but it's not always available.
Yeah, of course. Well, 30 minutes is fine. Yeah,
Okay.
why not? Yeah. Sorry, maybe I didn't understand exactly. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I think it's it adds.
I have a comment and a question. Maybe somebody knows. So maybe it's not funny, but I have sequenced myself. I went to Craig Venter in San Diego. I sequenced myself, fully sequenced. Not only that, I done full epigenome. Another time fully epigenome. Measure my biological clock. 23andMe. Everything possible. I look at every system here. I also went to the different booths and look at the bioinformatics system. I don't find confidence to get any result. I must say, I know certain genes. I don't have the severe genes of nothing. But I'm going to die probably.
Is that what the test told you?
No, the test didn't tell me. But I'm going to die from something one day. But I don't find it in the data. And I don't really find. And if I'm going to sequence my children, I don't know, like what is the report that, like where I go, QI gene, whoever recommendation, which report we should actually look after we sequence, because I don't really find it.
So you're thinking probably in most cases there will be nothing to say.
So it's all the time, so we talk about sequencing data, this, I done it fully. What do you do with that? So I really try to find, and it's a serious question, I really try to find, beside perhaps certain genes, BRCA, and this type of genes, or HF, HA, we say, like where we get the data, where we get information, which booth here around the conference give us actually good data, good analysis of our data.
Okay, so in reality, this screening might lead to nothing to say at all in most cases. Final thought, Angus.
Well, in addition to dying, you are very likely to pay taxes. Unless you are very wealthy.
Or very poor.
Or very, very poor. No, but even if you're very poor, you pay taxes.
Right.
You pay, in here, you pay VAT on anything you buy. So however poor you are, you will pay a lot of tax.
Okay. So
if you're very wealthy, maybe you pay nothing. But even if you're very wealthy, you will die. Yes.
Okay. Well, is that the culmination of your research? It's a good conclusion. Yes. Okay. Right. So where are we going to go with this conversation?
So I kind of agree with.
Well, I think there are lots of pictures.
So I kind of do agree with you in the sense that what are we going to interpret from the data, because in the sense that we do screen someone and then we've told them, oh well, there's a high chance they might develop this type of cancer or something. Is that not going to put a bit of fear and like maybe into the parent and maybe kind of condition the child's life in a certain way? It could affect the child's life in some way, or like that constant fear could take over them that, oh, my child is going to be sick.
And in addition that point, like sometimes like we have a kind of like certain like the mutation in the gene, but like seems like asymptomatic, but still like people are concerned about that points, and then going to the screening every time, like every single I don't know, like months or something, and then like in that case we might need to consider about the financial burden and also like the mental burden as well.
Is there a lot of potential fear involved in doing the screening, which may be unfounded? Are you going to go? Gulcin, but give us a final thought before you go.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Well, okay. I just want to thank you, all the organizers, and I would like to thank you for this incredible meeting. And hope to see you again. Thanks.
We will see you next time. Jessica, you want to?
I think what we haven't quite considered yet is the role of the environment in disease. So we've got the typical nature versus nurture argument here. Let's say your newborn is born with a high likelihood of getting lung cancer. If the newborn grows up to live a healthy, fulfilling life, maybe the newborn won't get cancer. If the newborn decides to start smoking at the age of 17, perhaps they are more likely to develop said cancer. So just because the newborn is born with multiple variants that could lead to disease, it doesn't mean they will. And we haven't really considered that so far. Unless we're looking at the newborn has been born with this disease, we'll definitely
I think
have
that's what
this
Angus
disease.
was saying, is that just keep stum about anything that isn't happening now and is also treatable. I think that was his angle on it. Other people have got different angles on this. Will?
It does depend, doesn't it, on where the weight of evidence is, which of course evidence changes.
Yeah.
And so it's never kind of a static conversation.
Yeah.
Who is it that updates evidence and how those decisions are made, and whose idea of real time is a question of medical and scientific deliberation and process and peer review, also political and financial decision making. And a good example might be away from the newborn screening thing, which I think is a sort of like a good case study, almost because it doesn't really exist at a national scale, although there are efforts to bring it into existence. But why is it that we are drawn to that as a debating point, and not to the fact that we don't have a BRCA screening for breast cancer? This is a high penetrance genetic mutation that we know the evidence is there to show that we can screen for it effectively, and we can do all kinds of things, whether it's to do with genetic counselling or whether it's to do with preemptive treatment, or indeed just changing people's pathways so that they're regularly monitored because they're at higher risk. We don't have that screening program, and if we have attempts to develop one, it's slow. Why is that? That I think is something to be debated. It goes back to priorities again. It goes back also to evidence, but I don't know enough about BRCA.
Okay. Well,
so I could stand corrected by the other experts around the table.
On a similar note to that, actually, there is so many genetic variants that are known to be associated with prostate cancer, and yet the only test offered for men at a risk of prostate cancer is the PSA test, which is known for in its accuracy and in reliability.
Right.
It's pretty much an awful test because it does not. You have to have 3 measurements of it in this period of 6 months for it to be any use whatsoever.
Right.
And Will's completely right. So why are we not looking into more tests like that?
Yeah.
And if we have men and they know, they are able to consent to that perhaps
we need to focus on the low-hanging fruit, so to speak.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
But my point is, there are so many known genetic variants for prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Why not have an opportunity for these men who are able to consent to join a program that they could do something like that?
I mean, has Will dropped the bomb that we need to actually focus on the things that we understand. It's just a tiny fraction of the possible knowledge out there, but at least we know about BRCA and we know about prostate cancer.
We would then give ourselves the opportunity to build evidence base for resolving the problems we're talking about, which are to do with ethical debates about the right to know or not to know, to the extent to which consent to screening is a consent to your kinship relationships and your community relationships to be screened by proxy. That in fact informed consent is a really problematic idea, and rarely does it land on a legal individual. No such thing as an individual really when it comes to the environment that we live in. So it seems to me that we could do better on 2 fronts. One, delivering the services, and 2, having better evidence for bioethical debate, which is the kind of debate that I think that we're having, but somewhat up in the air, because we're talking about a newborn screening program that is yet to really gather momentum.
Okay. Any views on this? Henning, you're looking kind of considered. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on it. Have you got any thoughts on it?
I think my original thought would be there should be a separation between actionable and non-actionable results, but the point is it's a continuum, so it's very hard to draw the border and to even allow a decision. So I think it's very hard to come up with any overall recommendations, but that's what I would try to do, so that whoever has the test, or in case the parents, that they have the right to distinguish between the two. I want to know the actionable results. I don't want to know what is not actionable anyway.
Okay. Catherine?
So you often hear the kind of, why don't we screen for this? Why don't we screen for that? We could really help people. They hear that a lot. Different conditions. It seems on the face of it a quick win, a simple win. So I think just from just knowing a little bit about how the screening decisions are made, it's not because we shouldn't be doing it, it's because we don't know whether we should be doing it yet. Right. And it's back to the evidence problem as well. Like, we've got a really, really high bar. We need a lot of evidence, and that's a good bar.
Is it a bit of a chicken and egg, though?
It is a little bit of a chicken and egg, exactly, especially for rare diseases, actually, because it's hard to do research on rare diseases because they're rare. It's where we're going to get that evidence from in order to satisfy ourselves that it's worth the money, because it does sometimes come down to this cost. The NHS has not got unlimited money to roll out a national screening programme for any one of those two conditions mentioned, but it costs absolutely millions and millions of pounds. And whether it would even be possible, because would we even have the resource, the person resources to be able to do it?
It's a little bit of it, just the way the NHS has formed, that it doesn't have people to do it, and it's almost a cultural element to it as well.
Yeah, it would. I don't know. Maybe others who are a bit more familiar with NHS structures. Angus has gone. But it would be a massive undertaking. So it's only right that we are very, very sure that it would be worth it, and it comes down to how many lives saved, how many people identified, how many people given treatment, how many people's lives, healthy years, that sort of thing. It does come down a little bit to numbers.
It does sound like a good idea, though, doesn't it?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we going to go with this conversation? Alan?
I think this topic and the topic before, so the genetics IQ. Now, newborn, shall we ethics? Again, ethic discussion. For me, it's very dry.
Hang on, Alan, let me just I know you're going to go into them, but I want to get a final thought from you, Henning, before you go. What's that? Okay.
I found this question in general. The subject is like because it's coming from a journalist, some kind of I don't know. It's like it requires us to do some certain be in the limit of this question and find what the ethics and what this, and I think it's very complicated, and we just stuck in this conversation, and it also was the last topic, so it's on the purpose, so these topics are on purpose, not progressing anywhere.
They're a bit sci-fi in a way.
They're not sci-fi. They build like a journalist, as if a journalist come in order to attract as much as response as possible from the people, because we in order to answer it, we just need to start to analyze everything. We need to find out what is our moral, even what is our ethics. Can we put it down in paper? What is our ethic? What is good? What is bad? We need to do a whole philosophical investigation. Plus, we need to connect it all to the genetics. There is no chance. So it's all the topics. It's just trying to squeeze the juice out of us. So I will go for, and also the last one, genetics of IQ. Genetics of IQ. Barely I know how a molecule fold.
Do you feel?
No, it's
squeezed.
Yeah, I feel it's coming on purpose in order to drag the juice out of us.
Okay.
So I will go for a more lighter
we don't have to talk
concept.
About that. In a way, it's just to get the punters in and get the conversation going.
Exactly. This is what manipulative about it, because it's just to make a conversation going, because everybody will be very charged. What the other person will answer? Do they give civil rights to children? Not. What about but minorities? What about? So it's just dragging the differences. So it's all aim in order to drag differences between us.
The great thing about Talkaoke is you can put
and then the older people and this, and we need to be careful with colors, with this, with ethnicity, with women, with gender. All of it's in order to divide. The question is coming in order to divide and not to connect us as a group. Because this is we try to defend instead to attack.
What is a better question?
Yeah, because if you design a circle, so do it to the direction of doing something together, not attack, not defending against the authorities. Because if we need to defend ourselves, then we scatter around and we separate ourselves instead of building something together, because we have the best minds around you here in the field. So I don't know if it's not all Harvard here and all this, but we have a good mind. We can make something that benefits the child. This question do not benefit the child. The child benefits the child.
What question would you ask?
How do you cure cancer? How do you go with the epigenetic of cancer and cure this shit? how we fix these problems, and we can brainstorm, and everybody can be bioinformaticking and say, listen, I thought about that, and he will say, hey, I've been thinking about that. Let's go for the big dementia. But no, we divert from the dementia subject, and we go again to the ethics. Is it really okay to cure dementia or Alzheimer?
I want to find a thought.
So this is like my thought.
Okay. All right, I'll give you a round of applause for that. All right, Jessica.
Hello.
Final thought.
I think that all geneticists have to remember the mantra of just because we could doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
And whilst there is an age of pure excitement ahead of us, there are multiple things that we do have to keep in mind. Personally, I think that newborn screening is a fantastic idea that should be implemented nationally.
Yeah.
As an NHS worker, I feel that the NHS can be, well, I feel it needs to be completely broken down and reformed.
Yeah.
And reforming the NHS, I think, can lead to opportunities where genetic screening for newborns will be feasible.
I mean, we asked this question a minute ago about the kind of culture of the NHS. Is it a little bit resistant to
a little bit? It's completely resistant.
Yeah.
It's from my personal experience that not everyone will have had. With the NHS, you do get a very much, I don't want to lay the blame on anyone, but it's very much, if this is the way we've done it, this is the way we always will do it. It's very much, you get your senior consultants who have worked so hard to get where they are, but they're very resistant to anything changing. That is what I have seen. But I feel that if the NHS was completely reformed, there is so much more potential and so much that can be done with it. The NHS is one of the best and most noble institutions we have in this country, but it needs to change.
Okay. We can give you a round of applause for that one. Thank you. Okay, give us a final thought.
Well, I wondered if anyone would mind if I took a selfie.
Yeah, well,
is
go
that
for
okay
it. Maybe you could get even Jessica to...
Oh, yeah, Jessica.
But we actually need you in the shot, really.
Yeah,
so
ready? It's going to be 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, okay. There we are.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining.
Does everyone mind if I put that on Twitter?
I've got no problem, but you could tweet at the people tweets.
Okay.
What's your final thought?
I kind of can't work if I disagree or agree with Alan with his sort of diatribe, but I mean, mainly I think it's good to debate these things, and it's okay if we skip around, and it's all right to disagree with each other.
Absolutely,
it's all right, isn't it? You know, that's how we get there.
Should we have spent the time? Should we have spent the time trying to find? I know that cancer isn't one disease, but many different diseases. But should we have found the time to at least find a cure for one of those diseases, rather than debate abstract ethical question?
Probably unlikely we were going to do that. I do agree though with asking the right question, and I think that's great to say. What's our ultimate aim? If you're talking about newborn screening, it's how can we, improve child health? So we could have had a different conversation about that.
I do think we have a maxim that people speak. There's always a better question to ask, and we start off with a question, but there's always a better question that emerges from the conversation. So Catherine, thank you very much. We've got a new face at the table. I hope some of this makes sense. We'll give you a round of applause. Are we moving on to the next thing already? Where was my coffee break? Missed it. So got too involved in the conversation, but we can just keep it going. What's your name?
My name is Ali Reza.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have got, I'm Mikey, we've got Habsa, we've got Momoko, we've got Margot, we have got Rod, we have got, I know that one. We have got Alan, we've got Will, and I'm Mikey, as I said. Are you joining in on this one? Yes. You're very determined. Most people are a little bit kind of like, oh, shall I sit down? Shall I not sit down? What is this about? You're just straight in there. I love that enthusiasm. What's your name?
Jerome Breen from King's College London.
Okay, can I call you Jerome? Is that right?
Yes, that's fine.
Jerome, we've got Monmako, we've got Habsa, we've got Ali, was it? Ali Reza? Margot, and we've got Rod, we've got Alan, and we've got Will. And potentially, Catherine, if we can entice her to actually stay for this one?
Well, maybe part of the reason why Jerome was so determined to come here is because he's our expert for the next session.
Yes, I thought as much. Yes.
Yeah. So our next session is about opportunities for genomics to shape the future of healthcare.
Well, we've kind of been talking about that.
So
anyway.
I feel like there was a segue. Will is going, so maybe he can give us a final thought.
Hang on. Before you depart our universe, just give us a final thought, a closing point before you go.
Look, I mean, it seems to me that if it's too much for you, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned about the belief in everything having a genetic cause, creating a kind of cycle or kind of feedback loop of investment, interest, and preoccupation. And I want to know who is keeping an eye on the opportunity cost, as the economists would call it.
Yeah.
What are we losing by focusing on genomics?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have said that there's a lot of hype about, I have to say, having done this for 5 years, the hype has diminished compared to 2018 Festival of Genomics. But is the hype still too great, and is that hype having a detrimental effect on other practices, other...
I'd like to step away from hype. Hype is just what we talk, and every science needs hype.
So you need the hype.
Everyone, I mean, football needs hype. Movies need hype.
Especially if you're a West Ham supporter.
It's just sales on. Absolutely, you do. But if you just circle around, hype, anticipation, expectation, we'll just be talking about what humans do all the time.
Yeah.
But what about the material resources, the people that we kind of throw in the front line, whether they're workforce, whether they're patients?
Yeah. What about the foot soldiers, so to speak, the foot soldiers of healthcare? Jerome, does that help at all? We've had a discussion a little bit about. We were talking earlier on about postnatal genetic screening and its value, but then it morphed into this question about, are we actually focusing on the right things, really, especially with the genomic approach where everything's so uncertain apart from a few established kind of, things like BRCA that we know about. Are we kind of wasting time and money and effort onto that?
Okay, thank you. So
let me turn you down a little bit. Go on.
My own research focuses on the genetics of mental health disorders, which is
interesting. Yeah,
perhaps at the other end of complexity. So, and going on from previous speakers, so so some of the points about belief in genetics are interesting. In mental health, we have both problems. However, we have the problem that people believe too much in genetics, and we have the problem that many people, including healthcare professionals, believe there is no biological basis for mental health disorders. That it's all environmental, and that's despite, let's say, mental health disorders having, on average, heritabilities of around 50 to 60%. So we're actually doing research at the moment where we're looking at the attitudes of healthcare professionals as well as patients, whether they think disorders and other things, psychiatric disorders, are genetic or environmental. Actually, on average, patients probably have a more balanced viewpoint than the medical professionals. Because of course everything lies, the truth lies in the middle, right, as with all things. But unfortunately, we need to do a better job, I think, of educating medical professionals. And whilst the situation might be in rare diseases, in cancer, that everyone thinks everything is genetic when there's a huge environmental or just random developmental component. But in public health and in mental health, there's not enough belief in the biology.
I mean, can I just ask, because I don't think I know any. Come and get involved in this. Yes, you can. 2 minutes. We're talking about mental health and genomics, genetics, but I would like to know, let me just get your name first of all.
I'm Vivian Parry. I'm a science broadcaster and I am Head of Public Engagement at Genomics England.
Okay, well, we're going to definitely give you a round of applause for that. And what's your name? We didn't get your name.
My name is Thomas. I'm from Mersla, a biotech company based in Cambridge. And we do liquid biopsy applications for diagnostics.
Okay, you're going to give you a round of applause as well. So we have got Alon, we've got Margot, we've got Ali, we've got Habsa, we've got Momoko and Mikey. At the moment, I just want to... We've got Jerome here that's concerned with genetics and mental health, but I really don't know anything about this, so I'd like to know how this approach can actually help in the treatment of mental health, or what are we looking at here?
So
hang on. So before you answer that question, I want to get a final thought from Momoko and possibly Habsa. Give us a final thought before you go.
I mean, thank you for this opportunity. Actually, I think the genomics is now coming towards the I don't know, big challenging points, because the technology develops so fast, and then we have more data available. So now the problem is more like an ethical issue, how do we handle these things? I hope this conversation and then this opportunity will be a good opportunity for everyone to consider about this problem.
Okay.
Sorry. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great, and I definitely believe that genetics will be the way forward in terms of preventative care. So I truly believe in this industry, and I hope more and more goes on. Of course there's challenges, but with every type of research there's challenges. And the future is genomics.
Okay, the future is genomics. It's a big claim. Thanks for that. We're going to go back just to find. We were finding out a little bit more context about your work, really, Jerome, and what really, what's going on. Why we need to know about genetics and mental health.
Yeah, so I primarily study the genetics of mental health disorders, so that they span everything from schizophrenia, manic depression or bipolar disorder, or all the way through to depression, anxiety, ADHD, and severe autism. And the thing about psychiatric disorders is that we had about a 20-year phase where very few new medications came on the market. Right, that started to change now, actually, in the last couple of years. I'd like to say partially informed by genomics, but actually partially informed by just overall better large-scale chemoinformatics and other approaches. But what genomics is delivering for mental health now is an avalanche of new therapeutic hypotheses to be tested.
Right.
So we have we're probably going to exceed. We certainly exceeded 1,000 different GWAS loci, or genetic variants associated with psychiatric disorders.
Right.
We've got hundreds of genes relatively concretely identified across different mental health disorders. And what we need now is a kind of re-engagement of the GWAS field with the functional biology, with the chemists, to develop the medications and to provide medications with different mechanisms of action, because that's the primary thing, both in schizophrenia and in depression. We've relied on drugs that have primarily one mechanism of action. Instead of being able to provide drugs with, let's say, 6 or 7 or a dozen mechanisms of action to allow accurate prescription.
So as we've talked a lot about tailored treatment in cancer, but not at all in mental health. Maybe that's a possibility with genomics. Vivian, you got a question?
So we've got to be very careful that we think of the mental health the way that the public think of mental health. In other words, the difference between severe psychiatric disease with a high heritable component and mental well-being. And the two are confused and conflated all of the time, and there's a huge environmental component. And I think, and I would say this in public engagement, you need to do an enormous amount of work with the public beforehand to understand what they think about this and that they don't see it as genetic determinism. In other words, you've got these genes, so therefore you will have mental ill health.
I don't know if you were here for this, for what Jerome was saying, that when it comes, I mean, it's not the public at large, but when it comes to, let's say, service users and clinicians, it's actually the clinicians that have got less faith in this than let's say, if you can correlate the two groups, the public and service users at large. So
we've got some terrible drugs for mental illness, some really terrible drugs with awful side effects, and we need to do the pharmacogenomics, particularly for the drugs that we do use, which can be effective for some but have terrible side effects in others.
Okay, good point, Alan.
I have a question. So, as far as I understand, so if we list like 6, 7 psychiatric disorders, and we can correlate to that like few hundred genes. So, and if we prioritize that, and we say what is the gene that affects the most a disease. So, what is the answer? Like, which will be the genes or set of genes that will be the most proven to be related to a certain disease?
Okay.
This, I like to focus on that. Then I understand from that gene. Where we go. Yeah. Like what is a?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So in I think there's two things. So what I said earlier is about attitudes about genetics and society. Yes, and we do work on what we say to participants, so we try and give them a balanced picture. But to take your question, so I guess the two things that really come up a lot across psychiatric disorders are calcium channel genes,
right,
and HLA genes. Different types of HLA genes.
Right.
So those are the really two strong, consistent signals across psychiatric disorders. There are other gene families that come up, potassium channels, for example, other things. Of course, they all have their own druggability problems.
Yeah.
But there are consistent signals that come up, let's say, and there are nice things happening. Let's say that in schizophrenia and manic depression, you get certain calcium channel genes coming up. If you look in depression, then you get slightly different ones coming up.
Right.
But it's important to bear in mind that's reassuring in a way, because all of those psychiatric disorders share symptomatology, even if they differ in their severity.
Right. Okay. Thomas.
What I wanted to say is, although I agree genomics has a huge impact for sure.
Hang on a sec, Thomas, I just want to get a final thought from Vivian before you go. Sorry, you were just starting, but I feel like I need to get a final thought from you, so could be on anything, doesn't have to be.
So my final thought is, I think the whole genomics community needs to work together very closely to agree some common messages about the use of genomics, which we all talk about.
Yeah.
For instance, that genomics is not your destiny necessarily.
Yeah.
Because we need to have the public with us and to be hugely supportive.
And I guess there's an issue that people have mentioned all through the 2 days about this, this shadow of genetic determinism that's out there, that is very popular in the kind of, let's say, the sci-fi world, that people really I guess it does cast a shadow on some of the great research that's being done. So
but I'm interviewing Brian Cox
Whoa.
So come and listen to that, because I'm going to ask Brian how can we apply physics superstardom to genomics.
Okay, well, is there any questions that people want to put towards Brian Cox before Vivian goes? Anything anything that Vivian should ask Brian Cox?
How should a biologist respond when a physicist acts like they know it all because biology's easy?
Okay. I mean, so it's a bit of an but
it happens occasionally. It's rare, but it happens. Where you encounter a physicist who wants to apply their work to biology, and you're a biologist, and the physicist does a kind of consider a spherical cow approach. And I've had that happen as in academia.
Okay. I mean, we've had a lot of physicists around the table. Okay. Ask Brian Cox about the spherical cow. I think that's all we've got for that. I don't know how you're going to turn that into a question, but good luck with that one. Okay, we were actually talking. Sorry, what's your name?
Oh, of course, Chaos, haven't I? It's her fault. She said come and sit down.
Yeah.
My name's Erica.
Erica, we've got Ali, we've got Margot, we have got Alain, we've got Thomas, and we have got Jerome. I'm Mikey. At the moment, we're talking about the genetics of mental health, and we just found out there's a whole bunch of genes about, was it calcium regulation genes or something like that? Calcium channels, and it's all coming and going. I'm struggling to get any sense of coherence here. But anyway, that's what we found out. That's what we're talking about right now. We're going to get a final thought from Alain. Are you off? Yeah. You're going to. Okay. Give us a final thought.
So I feel like I've talked mostly about the molecular genetics of what we're finding. So I should tell you about what genetics can do for social things in mental health.
Yeah.
So I was talking earlier about our genetic links to anxiety and depression study, which is part of a whole host of studies going on worldwide at studying the genetics of depression.
Yeah.
And actually work on European depression genetics and East Asian depression genetics has shown that in Europe you find a positive genetic correlation with BMI.
Right.
And in East Asia you find a negative genetic correlation with BMI.
Right, okay.
And that suggests that what we've got is this social environment invading our GWAS. Right. Okay. So that when society makes people depressed, those factors then are mediated associations in your genetic data.
Okay, so that's one to chew on for sure.
Anyway.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and thanks for giving us a window into your world, Jerome. I don't know where we want to go with this. Ali, you've not said anything yet, so...
I just...
hang on. Are you off as well? Okay, give us a final... Sorry, I need to get final thoughts. Sorry, Ali, sorry.
No, I wanted to say that I believe in genomics, but to me it's difficult to understand that genomics is very important when there are other omics. And for example, epigenomics for sure has an important role that, and maybe not everything is in the genes, but in the other omics as well, such as proteomics, because that's where functions really come from.
Next year, should we have the Festival of Omics?
Exactly.
Keep it narrow.
Of multi-omics.
Festival of multi-omics.
Multi-omics.
Okay.
Because of course, as we progress more, everything is becoming more interchangeable, and we are combining different technologies for the purpose of that we want cure diseases, etc.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. We'll pass that on to the organisers. Are you off as well?
Yeah.
We didn't get you. What's your name? Ricardo, have you got any views, any final initial thoughts?
I agree. My opinion, it's not a very interesting one, I guess, because I think everything is probably equal important. There are many things we don't know. Many things still to discover, probably, about in genomics, everything, and other omics as well, and probably everything interacts together. And we have to get information about a bit of everything to make our discoverable.
I struggle because a lot of the people, especially the NHS people, would say this is more important, that's more important, but in a way it's a very subjective question. It's not, and they treat it as if it's a kind of it's a measurable thing, that priority and importance. But is it really measurable? I was going to go to Ali, so let me go on.
I just wanted to add something to basically to genes. There is a genetics. For example, we have a gene for certain things. For example, eye colors, we have a gene for that. If we sequence it, we know that this is related to eye color. And some of the illnesses are related to genetics. Whether they believe it or not, it's written in the genes. Sooner or later, people will get that sort of illness, such as cancer. It's genetically inherited. Some of the cancer, not all of them. Some of the things is epigenetics. It means if you sequence the genes, you will not find anything wrong with the gene, but it is after that. For example, methyl group, which will interfere with the genetics, with the gene expression. RNA, mRNA, cRNA.
Yes.
You know, all those siRNA.
Yes.
All those sort of things are not written in the gene. It is after that. For example, when it says mental health, some of the genes are related to mental health, but some of the illnesses related to mental health is epigenetics. It means environmental.
Yes.
You know, for example, the good example for epigenetics is that when we born, we don't. Our level of understanding is limited. It is not written. Understanding is not written in the genes. Of course, there are some elements that make people more clever than others, but that is debatable, and it's. I don't believe that. Personally, I don't believe one person is more clever than another one. But anyway. You know that when it comes to genetics, our knowledge is not written in the gene. When we go to a school, education make us understand things in better way. That is related to epigenetics. It means that education enhance those.
So does education give us epigenetic changes in our
Exactly,
gene?
yes, exactly. Those sort of things. It's not written. If I do the next generation sequencing on the whole human genome, you can find one gene which is this is for make people clever. No, it's not like that. Education make people clever.
Yes.
And that it comes after genetics. It's not in the gene. It's after that. Some of the cancer, such as, for example, skin cancer, which if I expose to UV light, I will get a skin cancer, whether I want it or not.
Well, not many people want skin cancer.
No. I'm saying that this is not. It was not written in my gene.
It's not written in the genes. Yes.
It was after that. It's related to epigenetics. That's the things that unfortunately left.
Okay, we've got a new face here. We've got. I feel like we're kind of winding down anyway here, but you know there might be just a little coda here. We've got Rod. We've got Margot. We've got Ali. Tell us your name.
I'm Alex. Hi.
Alex, welcome. I'm Mikey. We've talked about a lot of stuff today. It feels like we're coming back onto this. You know this question about I suppose this genetic determinism which you're very much seem to be against, especially when we've been talking about things like mental health, intelligence. There's a guy called Jerome that says yes, you can find things out about mental health, but you're emphasizing the environment more. Margot.
I mean, I never thought that, I'm not a scientist, and I never really thought about genomics. Sorry, I don't know how I got into this festival.
How did they let you in?
Anyway, not on the mic. No, but, I'm not a scientist, but recently I developed this rash on my eyes, and it's been going on for months, and I still don't know what it is. I'm still waiting for my NHS appointment, blah, blah. In the meantime, as I'm trying to get it diagnosed, I talked to a lot of people, and quite a few people now suggested that, people who got COVID vaccination developed this kind of thing. And having no previous history of, so I don't know whether I'm just.
You've been wanting to throw this in for a while, and we're sort of almost closing down. So it's up to our two experts around the table to give us some steer on this.
No, but is this? But would you say this is like potentially an epigenetic? Because for instance, I had I suppose I had a choice of taking vaccination or not, but in a way, because of the science behind it and the peer pressure, I took the vaccination. But that is really, but what I want to also link it to, is that it has been suggested that people with a specific genetic predisposition are more likely to develop it after, as a result of this vaccination. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's making me think, did I even have a choice?
Any thoughts, Alex? Ali, any thoughts on this?
I can try and give my 2 cents, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know about your specific case, but of course, I believe that, for example, you shouldn't vaccinate children for COVID because the risk outweighs benefit, and some people just like line up their kids as soon as they can, like, which I don't agree with, for example. Also, like certain age groups and so on, like you should have maybe more of a discussion and like understanding before you commit to the vaccine. And I also wanted to make another point. So as far as I understand, there has been a lot of side effects, and to the point that NHS has opened a new department to deal with compensation and so on. And
But is there any way to find out if this is a side effect? If this is a side effect of the vaccine, or there's any genetic predisposition to this side effect, this eye rash? Is there any way to understand whether this has been caused by the vaccine?
I mean, I hope that your diagnosis, well, so I don't know if you can. I hope you can. The speed that the things seem to be developing these days, I hope that there's the right diagnostic tests for her. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, what do other people think? I mean, a lot of people are putting a lot of things down to the vaccine. Is there any way to know if there's any, one thing that everyone got a vaccine, so inevitably some people will get ill after the vaccine, but is it caused by the vaccine? How do we know? Any thoughts on this? Ali, have you got any thoughts on this?
I believe that everything, I mean, when it comes to drugs, they have some level of side effect. Why? Because genetically, those drugs are not made for a specific person. It's generic sort of vaccine, for example. It may work perfect on somebody and it may have a severe side effect on another person. It depends how genetics of the specific person is, and that's why the thing, when it comes to the side effect for the vaccine, COVID-19 specifically, some people they have mild side effects. Some person they don't have at all any side effect. That is the things that despite the fact that the human population around the world has got 99.99% similarity in terms of genes. 0.01% make a huge differences, and and when it comes to 0.01% with 7 billion base pairs, DNA base pairs, one of those can make a huge differences. For example, the sickle cell. There's only one.
Is it one?
One nucleotide is changing. I think it's A. I think it's A. I'm not 100% sure. It's either A changing to T or vice versa. And that makes a huge differences. That's why the thing when it comes to human, genetically we are very, very similar, but that's 0.00 that makes a huge differences in terms of how we react to different things, as well as the environment. The thing I say, everything is not written in the gene. It comes after that.
I mean, I guess the question is Margot's rash caused by the environment or by genetic?
It could be a mix of both. It could be a mix of both, and some area, I don't know. I mean, you have to test, and it's not that easy to identify, because that sort of thing is not that sort of thing is not easy to test, to sequence and see which area was affected by vaccine, and the thing, it might be or may not.
Okay, so it's pretty much a don't know. I think the answer is there's a lot of research that will have to go into it, and hopefully you'll recover in a shorter time than that proposed research. Rod?
I think it is an interesting question as to how sort of public opinion towards the vaccine is going to change in the coming years. Because I think when it came out, it was very much, it had to be this case of it doesn't matter that this hasn't been extensively tested. We need it. It's better than the alternative. We need to just roll it out. We need to kind of suppress the issues with it. I think the issue of kids is one thing. I agree that personally that kids should not be vaccinated. But definitely, I also agree that when it was first coming out for COVID. For COVID specifically. For COVID. But I also think that when it was first coming out, it needs to the messaging needed to be be very kind of unified, right? But now, as time passes, I think maybe the time has come for more nuanced opinions and sort of entertaining the idea of like side effects and sort of potential problems, and I don't know.
I mean, what's your gut feeling about Margot's rash? Is it a side effect of the COVID vaccine?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe. So it's hard. It was probably hard to tell, right? Because, like you say, we don't really have a good control. Because sort of nearly everyone took it, and the people that didn't aren't a representative sample.
Okay.
So,
we've got a new face at the table. We've got Alex. We've got Ali. We've got Margot. We've got Rod. I'm Mikey. What's your name?
Nice to meet you. I'm Beatrice.
Beatrice.
It's difficult for me even to pronounce my name. Beatrice. You can call me B.
Anyway, B. At the moment we're talking about the COVID vaccine. Margot's got a rash. It's undetermined. She definitely got the rash after being vaccinated, but was it caused by the vaccination? And if so, what are we going to do about it? Anything? I don't know. Should she be seeking compensation from the NHS? It was your point, Alex. I don't know if you can be compensated for a rash. So that's what we're talking about at the moment. It's a free-form talk show. We can go really anywhere, and I feel we're in the kind of final stages of my mental health anyway. We may not be going for that much longer, but that's where we are right now. Don't feel you have to give a comment straight away because you might want to listen.
No, well, maybe I can apport something. Well, I am from Mexico, so it's, as you know, it's a developing country. So my parents, they refused to have the vaccine. So even I try to say, okay, it's up to you, I cannot force you. They say, no, we don't believe in the vaccine. Even we are in risk, we know. And we accept the risk. We are not going to have and my parents are not the same. Well, not the only ones, sorry. Even they have some friends that also they refuse to have the vaccine. So it's like because of believing, like, no, you are going not to have the chip, for example. They don't believe that there is a chip inside the vaccine, but they say, no, maybe they are I don't know, it's like like a conspiration against humanity, maybe we can have like a damage in a long term, so they prefer to refuse rather than accept the vaccination.
Were they right to refuse, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think we are free to choose. So even I am like a scientist, well, kind of. I cannot force them. So I think they are free, and even if I try, I'm going just to waste my time because they say no, and they are my parents. I need to respect.
I mean, I get very frustrated when my dad and his not just refusal to have a vaccine, but to engage with any kind of medical system. But I mean, I guess there is a question about whether that's the right decision to make. What information is that decision based on? I guess no one can really know.
But also there's this way of talking about, something happens to people and it's like, oh yeah, but that was in your genes. That could be genetic. And I think that as a piece of information is completely unhelpful for a layperson who kind of gets that kind of comment. Like, what are you supposed to do? It's like, oh, okay, so that's predetermined. But no, maybe we can do some sequencing. Maybe we can do something, stuff that I'm finding out about here. But that is never kind of offered as an option or any kind of a point of conversation. And that's not to say like, oh, can you you reverse time and blah blah blah, just remove this illness from my life or whatever. It's not even that, but it's just like speaking of trying to, hello, this is Talkaoke, welcome to join.
We're kind of winding down, but we're having
but we're just having a chat
right now.
Yeah. But I think in terms of communicating, you know, the impact of genetics on how we may develop or how we may react to other things. I don't think that information is out there for people who are from outside of that bubble of information, and I don't think the GPs do a good job at conveying that knowledge, but because maybe they don't have it. And also, you know, we're talking about data sharing here. We've been talking about it all day today and yesterday. But at what point does that happen? What, you know, in which world does that happen? Is it something accessible to normal people? Is it useful? Is it actually causing more confusion? I don't know.
Okay, I mean, in a way, I could sum that up: is the public ready for genomics? Is it any use? Is genomics ready for the public? Are we really at that point? I feel like what you've said is a no. But when we've got a new face at the table, what's your name?
Sam Keating.
Sam, we've got Alex, we've got Beatrice, we've got Ali, we've got Margot, we've got Rod and Mikey. At the moment, there's a few subjects around the table. Some of it is around the reception of the vaccine and possible side effects, and people saying no to the vaccine, saying yes, not really knowing, and the sort of difference between a public health message and a scientific discussion about these things, which, you know, Rod is saying now's the time to forget the public health and have the actual nuanced discussion about such things before the next pandemic comes. You didn't say that, but I'm saying that to give it a bit more drama. Okay, so yeah, that's where we are right now. I don't know, it might be early days for you to chip in, but anytime, just say what you want to say, what you need to say. Alex, have you got any views on this and what's been said?
I think we should take a minute to appreciate Sam's facial hair, if that's all right. I mean, maybe you could, before you comment on the vaccine, maybe you could tell us about the mustache a little bit.
Did you guys find AirPods over here?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We can put.
I know. I kind of put this here, but actually maybe down there.
Okay,
they're here somewhere. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the height. Yeah. Okay, so we're looking for some earpods there. If you do see some, that's Elena. That's Elena. Anyway, Sam.
Sam, I am.
Yes.
I've got a picture of my great-great-grandfather with the exact same mustache. Okay. So it runs in my family.
It's a hereditary trait?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonder what the gene is.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if that's something to go on. You can. The whole point of Talkaoke is a free-form talk show. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about, really. Do you want to talk about the COVID vaccine? Do you want to talk about understanding of genomics? Do you want to talk about your facial hair, or somehow link these three subjects together? Which
That's a
I
challenge.
would be impressed. Yeah.
Well, obviously, since facial hair is genetic and is not a consequence of vaccines, I think that's the best I got.
So it hasn't been affected by taking or not taking the vaccine, this facial hair? No. Okay. Well, that's good news. Where are we going to go with this conversation? Someone help me here, because I feel like we've got too many threads. It's up to you as the participants to define and decide. It's actually a power that you've got to decide where to take this conversation. We've got all these brains here. What are you going to do with this situation? Where are you going to take this conversation? I'm not going to give it to you. Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, just on the back of the facial hair, I wonder if there's some kind of scientist chic these days. The reason being is because, you know, when you think of a mad scientist, you think of Albert Einstein. He had a very kind of particular look, and some scientists have as well. But I mean, are there any trends right now in the scientific fashion?
What is hot in the science?
Yeah, what's hot in the fashion?
In terms of style and grooming?
I think there is a common stereotype of a scientist, especially in my field. So, well, I guess probably it can be extended. Biotechnology.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a kind of social anxiety, kind of autistic, a little bit kind of spectrum stuff going on. Because I think it makes sense to some extent, because that kind of trait makes you often kind of focused deeply on a certain aspect or details, and you makes you more like introspective, I think, and persistent in like digging for answers and being I think, I don't know if I see a lot of heads nodding, so I guess people agree with me on that.
Okay,
I would like to assure you that there are some fun scientists out there as well.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Not me though.
Okay. I mean, earlier on we were talking about science and fun. Is there enough fun in this discussion? Are people having enough fun when it comes to the exchange? You know, we're here to network, to exchange. Are we having enough fun when we're doing it? Could we have more fun, and if so, how? That's the question. It depends what people's ideas of fun is. What's your idea of fun?
I don't know. I'm a pretty big nerd. So.
Okay, nerd fun. What is nerd fun?
Geeking out at a conference.
Okay, all right. So we need to maybe get more geeky for you as well. Maybe what's your idea of fun, Beatrice?
To me, it's dancing, drinking, and having party. Yeah.
I mean, do you think we could have a kind of genomic dance?
Yeah, definitely. I think also it's not just like, it's social also because of the environment. So maybe I am from Latin America, so for us, if you play music instantly, we are like dancing.
Is there enough music here? Are you a bit disappointed?
Probably, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we know we need more music. I haven't got any Latin music on. No, I've got this.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, you put two on. There we go.
That one, that's...
Okay, so hopefully this makes you more comfortable.
Thank you.
Ali, what's your idea of fun?
I think to be happy, happiness brings fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the things that, focus on what you're doing and ignore somehow what the other people make a comment on your way of doing things. Of course, you don't need to, to disturb other people by doing something. I mean, I just, like a freedom.
Yeah.
It should be.
What do you tell us? What you really enjoy? What you like?
I mean, basically, when I'm doing something and I get a result, that result give me like a.
So for you, it's about get a result, a conclusion, a finding,
and
a
doing
discovery.
yes.
Okay.
What
that
I'm
is fun
doing.
for you.
Yeah, that's fun for me.
Yeah.
And this sort of fun, it is like a boring for others. But I mean, it's, as far as I'm happy with
this is one of the difficulties here. If we're trying to make Festival of Genomics more fun, what is fun for some people is boring for others. What's fun for you, Rod?
Coming to this Talkaoke and talking to you guys.
Okay, well that's lucky.
Joining the discussion, so I'm having my idea of fun right now.
Yeah.
Now I also like nerding out a bit. I have my hobbies that I do.
What's your version of nerding out?
Well, I'm currently doing a D&D game with some friends that's sort of been ongoing for a few months. That's like as nerdy as I get. I think
there should be a bit of D&D.
Yeah, definitely in the genomics. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you could all play like genes. You know.
Okay, could we have a genetic version of Dungeons and Dragons? Would that work? Somehow, okay, this is all food for thought. How are we going to do that? We've got a year to work it out for next year's session.
Well, we're doing this biohack next year, so
we're doing the biohack as well.
Okay, it's like a multiple.
We're inventing next year's festival. But let's just have a straw poll here. Who would get involved in a Dungeons and Dragons genomic version of Dungeons and Dragons if it was at the festival next year? Anybody? Sam, would you do it?
I've never gotten into Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, so it's not your thing. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe a no. Okay.
Same here.
No. Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. Okay.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. So that looks like.
I wasn't suggesting.
It's just gonna. It's just gonna.
My hobbies.
It's just gonna be you doing.
Some things should stay in. I don't.
Yeah. Keep that in the dungeonosphere, or whatever you call it. Yeah. Okay. Is there such a thing as we've heard about proteomics, genomics, methylomics, but what about dungeonomics? Dungeonomics is like the omics of Dungeons and Dragons.
The omics.
Yeah.
No, but I do think that we should have like some kind of a club night, and I completely agree with B. I think you know having fun is like through expression and movement, because I think a lot of the work, particularly like within research, it is very focused, and maybe it does attract types of people who are kind of focusing on detail. Maybe they're on spectrum or whatever, but I think you know kind of the joy of people being in one space, I think it's really brilliant. And I think gigs. We've got a new person.
We need to ask.
Come and join us.
What's fun for you? That's what we're talking about at the moment. Because although Festival of Genomics is fun, we believe we can make it more fun. The problem is, different people. I didn't use this word. They nerd out on different things. Rod's into Dungeons and Dragons. Beatrice is into dancing, and Ali is into just simply discovering new things. So we're just trying to have as we wind this one down, think about what will be fun for next year at the Festival of Genomics. That's where we are right now. We've got Sam, we've got Alex, we've got Beatrice, we've got Ali, we've got Margot, and we've got Rod, and my name's Mikey. Have you got any thoughts off the top there, or just want to hang on in there, think about it for a little while?
I'm not sure. I like photography and music, so if you could do anything.
Okay, so it seems like creative things. Yeah. Maybe we can have a bit more creativity at next year's festival. Ali, you wanted to say something?
No. Say something about next year.
Yeah, I mean, what would you like to see next year? That's maybe on the more fun side for you personally.
For me personally, I'm working on the project. I would like to get more advanced result based on the fact that I'm working on the project, and it would be a great fun for me. And the things basically I'm doing two different things at the same time, try to help the society, the population. And when I see people happy, that happiness have got a side effect on me. It makes me happy as well.
Okay, so actually getting other people happy makes you happy.
Yes.
What about this idea we came up earlier on, which is a kind of like biohack that you have during the festival, or maybe just before or just after, 2 days where you've got all these minds here together and get them to solve a problem in genomics or any kind of related problem in 2 days in a kind of hackathon, but a biological hackathon. Would you get involved in something like that?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm working on a genetic area.
Yeah.
And yes, the genome. Is my background. I work on genome, and I believe on genes and genetics and epigenetics. We have 3 different type of genetics. I'm sure you're aware of that. When the one is genetics, inherit from both parents. For example, our physical appearance, eye color, hair color, skin, all those sort of things. It comes either from father, mother, or mixture of both. That's genetics. Epigenetics is not written in the genes, it comes from environment and different kind of stuff. And the third one is maternal genetics, it's always come from mother. It's not from father, it's always mother. That's why that if you are.
But that's not my question. My question is, would you like to do some of this research here live in the festival next year? Actually do a mini project with
I can do the mini project with showing something, for example, DNA RNA extraction in an extremely simple way, to show to people how you can extract RNA DNA in very, very basic.
So you would like to do that? Would that be fun for you?
It would be fun.
Okay.
Well, anybody can do it. Yeah. I mean, anybody. I mean, I can show people how to extract RNA, DNA in a very simple way.
Yes.
A very, very simple way.
Okay. Alex?
I suddenly feel like Dungeons and Dragons, actually.
Yeah.
So,
more like Dungeons and Dragons,
yeah, that's it, actually. But I was wondering what you do for fun, Mikey. Is it just like fun, non-stop?
I do this for fun, although, you know, when the fun stops, stop, as they say. You know, I'm a little bit kind of like, a little bit frazzled now. But yeah, in a way, I also like dancing. I do a lot of dancing for fun, not necessarily Latin vibes, but it could be anything. So I do agree with the dancing, and I am also thinking, how could we reinterpret all of this factual information into dance? And I think it is possible, maybe not a very complicated, you know, polygenic assessment. Maybe it could be, I don't know, but that would be more complicated. But something we could turn into dance. A polyrhythmic dance we could maybe do. A polyphonic we could certainly do. We didn't actually get your name, did we?
My name's Victory. Victory.
Any response to this? What do you do for fun? Would you be involved in a biohack? If we did some live science in the festival next year?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
And what would you add to the party, so to speak?
What would I add to the party?
Yeah. What skills would you bring?
Not sure.
Okay, well, it's one to think about.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I'm not so much on the fun side of things, which is what you're trying to get me to say.
I'm not trying to get you to say anything. But you're not into fun as such.
No, No, but like when you come for like festival like this, you're thinking of information, you know, hearing from the experts. You're not really thinking of the, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. But for me anyway.
I mean, can that not be a part of it? Does it not help to absorb information?
It can definitely be a part of it. Yesterday I was excited by just shooting a Nerf gun at the dartboard.
Right.
That was
fun. So you were doing a bit of shooting.
I enjoy that. That was fun.
All right, so I think we got something there out of it, but, you know, are we here to have fun or are we here to absorb information, Rod?
Okay, first I just want to clarify that I do also like clubbing, and I'm not the lamest person in existence, which I think is, you know, there's been some slander being raised at this Talkaoke.
No one said anything about Dungeons and Dragons.
You know.
No one said anything.
No, I know, I don't mind. But also, I, as someone who's been here the past 2 days and not actually going out and looking at the stands, I have to say, looking down from this, we get like a good vantage point. It does look like everyone's doing the same thing, and you'd go to like 3 different stands and be talked to by like 3 different salespeople, and probably get a bit bored. Maybe, at least I would. So I was wondering what was the best experience that people had with any of these companies, any of these academics? What's the, you know, what was the best thing?
What's the highlight for you?
I also have a question, just because when people kind of rushed out to listen to Brian Cox, and then I think also people said like, oh, you know, why is he even here? And I think, you know, since it's a festival, not a conference, are the organizers missing a trick? They should have just gotten Brian Cox to like do some music, just get us to like rock out, just, you know, clear the palette a little bit as well. So maybe we should have some music.
What was the name of Brian Cox's band before?
I had to look it up, but wasn't it Blur? But then also D-Ream. Whatever, he can play keyboards, but you know, I think that would be some great opportunity for some epigenetic experience for people.
Good science comedy would be good.
Okay, comedy. I mean, is there any good science comedy out there?
You've been doing all night.
Well, yeah, not deliberately. Okay, science comedy. So there we go. We've got some. Thank you, Victory. What's been the highlight for everybody for this year? As this festival comes towards its kind of closing moments, have there been any highlights? Obviously, it's not Brian Cox, because Brian Cox is down there. These are the people, the non-Cox lovers here. So we're a minority. But what has been the highlight for you, Alex? Have you got a highlight?
In terms of the stands, or
anything.
in general? I guess a bit of everything, really. Yeah. I just came from a really good talk about Alzheimer's disease. The speaker was like very enthusiastic and clearly a good scientist and so on. That was really good.
What were they saying about Alzheimer's?
So there is a new recent news, right? That there is finally a drug that works for Alzheimer's. So he was very happy that people will, there will be more funding once again, and there's going to be more progress, and he's like a big part of it. So it's just really nice to see a talk like this, kind of changing, like what's changing in this field of science, and the other really good part about the festival is like meeting people that I know but I haven't seen for ages, just randomly, which is amazing. It's just it's a reminder that the world of science is quite small, but
there's a social side to it as well, I suppose.
I guess so. I run into a few people that I know, and the kind of the vibe is good. I think it's not too serious, but you can get some really interesting knowledge, from what's going on, and
Okay, any highlights? Anyone else? Beatrice?
Okay, well, I have found something about like bioinformatics that is now everywhere. It seems like the big data is like everywhere. So I never imagined like working along with I don't know, engineering in software or something. So for me it's amazing, and also I think my supervisor always is right, because he says, okay, it's a well rewarding field, so if you prepare yourself, it's going to be for sure that you're going to have a job. So and I don't know, right, but but also I want to say thank you, because I need to go.
Okay, well, muchas gracias. And, thanks for contributing. I feel like we're kind of winding down now anyway. Thank you. I'm going to take that as a final thought. Ali, what's a highlight for you? Maybe we'll just get some final thoughts from everybody. And
this final thing. I mean, for me, I met a few good sort of things here, met people regarding to the different instrument working for us, especially I learned something about next generation sequencing, which I'm going to apply for my job in future. And then something new I have seen with about the nucleic acid extraction, which was very impressive. I never see it anywhere. I just, I'm glad that I came here. And also I met another local company which is doing robotic instrument. I'm going to visit them very soon. They're really good. I'm glad that I came here, but yesterday I spent an hour skewing.
So that was the low light. That was the.
It just it just put me off. But other than it was good, really good.
Okay, so there we go for highlights, lowlights. Victory, have you got any highlights or lowlights?
Well, highlights. Yesterday I enjoyed the talk from a lady from University of Southampton. It was about RNA sequencing and how they found a gene that they didn't find with DNA sequencing. And it could potentially be disease related because they already did some research with tadpoles, and the tadpoles showed similar symptoms.
What disease are we talking about?
I can't remember. But it's a genetic disease where I think some of the symptoms had to do with development, where I think the head was smaller. The tadpole head was smaller.
So kind of microencephaly, maybe.
Something like that. And the name of the gene is COP B1. and they're going to do further research to see if it's actually disease related or I found that interesting because it's a novel gene. And today I also listened to a talk by someone from Tel Aviv University, and it was about extroverts and introverts and how
we had this dude around the table. He was around the table talking about this yesterday.
Okay. I found that interesting how he's using epigenetics to determine extrovert and introvert.
Something to do with oxytocin, wasn't it?
Yes. That's it.
He's given us the spiel. We heard it here on the table yesterday, so that was a good one. Okay. We got the preview of that. Sam, highlights, low lights, middle lights.
I don't know. The lights don't need to be too bright, right? Highlights, I guess I just have loved the conversations and connections I've made here, just in the short 2 days. Lots of great insights and conversations and cool people.
Okay. Was there anyone in particular that you really kind of bonded with?
Number of opportunities, across different services and companies that I'm going to definitely be following up with.
Okay, cool. Okay, I feel like we're kind of coming to the end now, so it might be time for those kind of final overall thoughts to give us closure on this whole festival. Ali?
Related to the genome and genetics, I believe, with regard to the technology we have now, I believe in 10 years, maximum 20 years time, everything will be based on genetics and genomes. Anybody goes to GP, they will go with their own genome, and with regard to the what they call illness, and then the GP prescribe medicine based on the fact that on the genetics factors, not generic like medicine. 10 years, maximum 20 years time.
Okay, so in the Festival of Genomics 2033, we're going to can you make a note in the calendar? We're going to ask Ali about, how that's gone, how that went. In 10 years, will we be just routinely using genomics in primary care? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know.
Between 10 20.
Okay, all right, we're rephrasing that. We're going to ask in 10 years, we're also going to ask in 20 years. 2 reminders in the calendar for that. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts from the fluorescent people? Final thoughts, anyone?
It's great to see a lot of new technologies as well. I think IOTA Biosciences allowed me to take a short clip of the demonstration because it looked cool.
Okay, so a lot of cool new technology. Any final thoughts before we close this out? Any final thoughts? Rod, you've been here for 2 days. Give us a final, wrap it up for us.
No, I just want to say I'm glad people liked the talks and the interactions, because I've been sitting here basically thinking that some of these stands looked really kind of soulless and boring, and I was like, okay, why are people here? But I sort of forgot the talks were a thing, and that makes sense. I guess it checks out. You'd come for the conferences for the talks.
And also don't forget the Talkaoke as well.
Which is sort of long form talk.
Okay, right,
I think particularly, apart from Talkaoke, the other most exciting and networking opportunity that I found at this festival was queuing for coffee on day one. I chatted to quite a lot of people because the queue was, it wasn't that bad. So I think they should bring the queues back for second day as well, but there weren't any.
Should we have had a queue for the second day as well, because it was such a great networking opportunity? We're going to leave it at that. And I think all I can do now is just hit the theme music. And say thanks to everyone, not just around the table now, but we've spoken to throughout the 2 days. It's been fantastic. There's still time for you to give a final and an initial thought on this. We're just rounding this up. But final point.
I would just say that we are now finishing this, and we're going to Natural History Museum for another Talkaoke. It's not going to be facilitated by us, but we will be there. But if you want to see what we're doing, just grab a card and just stay in touch. We're based in London, and just give us a shout. We pop up everywhere.
It's the end here for we're going to be at the Natural History Museum. It's a free event. It starts at 6:30. Come along to that if you want to. If you want more chats, it's not the end for today. There is beer too, but it's very expensive. It's like £4.75 a bottle. Better to put a bottle of Camden Hells in your bag that you get from Sainsbury's. But it's an expensive beer anyway, isn't it? But that's it.